So today's presentation will be on social media manipulation. Yesterday, we laid a foundation on mass media. We said mass media is a means in which communication is passed from the one who is communicating to a specified group generally. And then there were several categories of media. We had digital media, print media, and then in the digital media, we had internet media, we had mainstream media, we have social media. So today we are kind of narrowing down into social media. Then probably tomorrow we'll get into mainstream media. So that is what we'll be looking at today, media manipulation, how media is used to to manipulate the masses today, especially the social media. So media manipulation. Our key text, as always, the text that we've been using is the book of Romans 12 verses 2. Romans 12 verses 2. That is kind of what we have been looking at, Romans 12 verses 2. And Romans 12 verses 2 says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable, perfect will of God. So we are exhorted by Paul not to conform to this world, not to be align ourselves with the ways in which things are done in the world, not to be molded into how things are done in the world, because the world has a pattern in which things are done. So we are told not to do things according to how the world is doing them, but to be transformed. And we said the process of being transformed, it is because God formed us once and we fell. So he formed us, we fell into sin, so we were deformed. And then there's a whole process of coming back to the original image that we lost. And that process is a process of transformation, which only works when God abides in us. He transforms, he works in us to will and to do according to his good pleasure, as Paul says in the book of Philippians. So we are told not to do things according to how the world is doing things. And so social media has a history, and the main milestone, the development and origin of social media dates back to 1844. Well, it is before that, but the first big milestone was laid in May 24th, 1844 by someone called Morse and Samuel Finley Breese Morse. And he was the first person to send a message through the electric lines of the telegraph in that date, May 24th, 1844. And surprisingly, the message that he sent was Numbers 23, the last sentence, which says, what hath God wrought? So that was the first message to be sent through the wires of the telegraph, and it laid the foundation for the development of social media. So the history of social media is a long one, but we'll quickly run through the development as it was growing through the different stages and media platforms. So 1844, the telegraph, the first milestone important to development of internet and social media in general. The first social media site was called 6 Degrees, the first social media site. Then it was followed by MySpace. Then from there, we come into the 21st century where now Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and the others came to be launched. So in 2004, Facebook was launched, and the founder is Mark Zuckerberg. He had co-founders like Sean Parker and someone called Kamath. We'll be looking at those even today. And then now it has 3 billion active users. YouTube, 2005, founded by former PayPal employees. Now it has 2 billion logged in monthly users. Then we have Twitter. In 2006, it was founded by several people together. It has 330 million active users today. Remember, it was bought by Elon Musk. And then Instagram, it was launched in 2010, of course, after the launch of the smartphone in 2007. So because Instagram is about videos and pictures, so it was launched in 2010. So that was the growth. Then Instagram and WhatsApp were bought by Mark Zuckerberg, and he brought them together and named this company Meta. So they were later bought by Mark Zuckerberg. TikTok came into being in 2016. It was founded by a company called ByteDance, which is a Chinese company. The interesting thing about TikTok is that the founder and the company that founded it is Chinese, but they don't have TikTok in China. It is banned. No one can use TikTok in China. So they have something similar to that, but it is very regulated, not like TikTok. Now it has 1 billion users. Then we have Snapchat in 2011, Twitch in 2011, Medium in 2012, Pinterest in 2010. And so we have this growth of social media that was growing throughout these ages until the time we are living. So there's a long list of social media platforms, a very long list. We have Facebook and WhatsApp and YouTube and Telegraph and TikTok and WeChat and Snapchat and Messenger and Omegle and X and Spotify and Telegram and Instagram and whatever gram that exists. So there's a long list of these social media platforms. The only surprising thing is that most of us are trying to get into as much of this platform as possible. And that is a problem. We'll be looking at why. Now, there are statistics that were released in April 2004. And there's a list of those social media platforms. And the biggest and most used one is Facebook, followed by YouTube and Instagram and WhatsApp and TikTok and WeChat and Messenger and Telegram. So the biggest one is Facebook under the umbrella of Meta company. Then the main reason for using of social media, each and every age bracket has a reason why they use it. And so the age bracket between 16 to 24 and 25 to 34 up to 64, those age brackets. The first issue when it comes to social media, you can see at the top of each of these columns is friends and family. So it's about connectivity and trying to contact your friends and create friends and contact the friends that you already have and family. That was the main reason for social media. And then the second reason now depends on the age bracket. According to this age bracket between 16 to 34 years, the second reason for using social media is because they have spare time. So they have time to spare, they have more free time. So that is their second reason for using social media. But between 35 age brackets, 35 to 64, the second reason they use social media is to read news. So you see now you start seeing a difference in the reasons for using media according to the age bracket. So when you look at each age bracket, there is a difference here and there according to what they deem or use social media much for. Now, when you go to the platforms, each and every platform is used for largely for a particular reason. For example, Facebook is used for messaging friends and family, and the percentage is 72%. Instagram on the other side has 70% as the top reason for, so a top percentage for the reason of photo share and video sharing. And then to TikTok, 80% is to look for funny and entertaining content. That means majorly TikTok is for entertainment. And then LinkedIn is used scarcely, but most of the time it is a professional kind of social media. And its main purpose is to kind of check the current events and updates of different organizations and companies. And then we have Snapchat and Twitter. Each of these has a particular kind of niche that they occupy in the bigger social media platforms. Now we know the advantages of social media, so we are not going to look at the advantages of generally we know what social media helps us to do. That one we don't need to be told. So there's a lot of things in connectivity and sharing of information and marketing and selling and business and all that that social media is used for. But when it comes to drawbacks, there's a long list that you can, if you sit down and try to think and try to look at it, you will realize there is a long list of the effects of social media. We have psychological distress, anxiety, and depression. We looked at that yesterday when we were looking at mass media, the health, mental health issues. Then we have cyberbullying, then waste of resources, whether it is time or money. There is a lot of time being used. We'll be looking at some of these things in details. Then we have addiction. Yesterday we touched on addiction. Today we are going to get into it and see how it works. Then the fear of being left out, one of the biggest issues. Today you must have a smartphone. If you have this buttoned phone, you look old, you look archaic, you belong to the archives. Today, people are living at a time when information is here and there, and they have to be in this platform. So there is a fear, especially among the young, the fear of being left out. They don't want to look archaic. And then we have a creating of an alternative persona. The people on the internet, the person you are on the platform, media platform, and the person you are really are two different things. We'll be looking at that. So there is a persona that you create, and this persona has to be maintained. If you went into a platform like Facebook and you started by posting a joke, you presented yourself as somebody who is funny. So anytime you sit down to write another comment or whatever you post, it has to be funny so that you maintain that persona. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy to maintain a persona that you have already created in this platform. Then there's a spread of misinformation and propaganda, interfering with sleep pattern. We'll get into that today. Yesterday we mentioned it. And then it enables indoctrination. Most of the bad concepts and issues that are every wind of doctrine that is in the world is now accessible to the masses. And people feed on these things because most of the time they appeal to the emotion and they appeal to our general mindset and preconceived ideas. So it becomes easy to promote this mindset. Then promotes social isolation. We looked at that yesterday. We'll kind of touch on that today. Promote procrastination and distraction. So sometimes we find ourselves digged into these social media and platforms to the extent that we start postponing what we do. Maybe house chores, you were supposed to wash your clothes and you realize you spend so much time, you postponed, I will wash my clothes on some different given day. So they bring a lot of procrastination. And then publicizing of private data. when you get into this platform, most often you register, you sign in. What is your date of birth, and what is your, there's those questions, what is your best pet or whatever. So there's data that you enter into these platforms as you sign in, and this data is used. This data is packaged and used and given to the marketers and advertisers to be used so that as something is sold to you. So we'll be looking at that. Then it promotes selfishness and laziness and infidelity and immorality, and the list goes on and on. Now let's start with this anti-social. Social media, unfortunately, paradoxically, kind of an oxymoron, is antisocial because it kind of tends to disconnect the face-to-face relationship. Now, there's a writer called Sherry who wrote a book about technology, and the book is called Alone Together. There's kind of a paradox. Alone together. Now, as you can see in this photo, we have these are adults and young people, and you can see they are together, but each and every person is on his own or her own world. So they are together, but each person is alone. So they are alone together. And we saw what Paul said in the book of Philippians 2 up to 2:4 up to 5, that we are told not to look every man on his own things, but also on things of others. We are supposed to care about the people around us, and we are told in verse 5 to have that mind that was also in Christ. So Christ always cared for people around him, but unfortunately, these gadgets seem to make us to be together. We are together, but each person is seated on his own island, on his own world. So they separate people who are sitting together in the name of connecting with the people who are far from us. So it's kind of a paradox. Now we will look at what Sherry says. He says technology is seductive when what it offers meets our human vulnerability. We'll be looking at that, what it means. And it turns out that we are vulnerable indeed. We are lonely but fearful of intimacy. We are lonely, but we are fearful of forming face-to-face personal relationship. So digital connection and social robots may offer the illusion of companionship without demand of friendship. Our network life allows us to hide from each other, even as we are tethered to each other. We rather text than talk. So that is the community in which we are living in, the society in which we are living in, and the times in which we are living in. And we saw that there was a survey yesterday. We saw that there was a survey that showed that 61% of teens said they would rather text each other than talk to each other. So texting offers just the right amount of access, just the right amount of control. Texting puts people not too close, not too far, but just the right distance. So when you're texting, you can edit, you can copy and paste. If you have a photo, you can filter it for it to have a certain look, and you can change things. You maintain a relationship that is not too close and not too far. So you are the one who controls this kind of relationship, and so that is what this technology has done to us. It is called Alone Together. So the web promises to make our world bigger, but it works. But as it works now, it also narrows our exposure to ideas. We can end up in a bubble in which we hear only the ideas we already know or already like. So there are ideas that we have, and sometimes when we get into this media, we try to gather in groups that have the same mindset, and that's why there are a lot of debates, quite ugly debates online on these social media platforms, because We will accept those people who have the same ideas as we are, and we will reject those, and we will argue very vehemently against those people who have ideas that are not like ours. And so it makes the social way of doing things and interaction quite difficult. And generally, it rips apart how the social fabric in the society is supposed to work. So that is what Christ said in Matthew 24, 12. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. So we saw yesterday that empathy comes down because of these media. We are not empathetic. I've seen that, especially with kids. A kid that is addicted to screen will not react even if their sibling falls down. You know, as a human being, especially when you see a child fall down, there's that empathy. You feel the pain of that. You react. But when you see a kid uh, uh, seeing their sibling fall down and they are not reacting, that is a problem. That is a big problem. They have lost their humanity, that concept of being human. So every time you check your phone in company, that is when you are in a group of people, what you gain is a hit of stimulation and neurochemical shot. So you get this dopamine hit on your brain. But what you lose is what a friend, a teacher, a parent, a lover, or a co-worker said, meant, or felt. Because you're in a conversation, somebody said something, or what they said something, they felt something, they meant something, but because you're busy with a device, you just lost that because you're trying to get some overstimulation from the media instead of personal relationship. So this is what media does. It brings you closer to the person that is far from you. You can have somebody from China, from India, from Canada, but it takes you away from the one sitting next to you. Unfortunately, it is antisocial, actually. So social media is actually antisocial to the extent that there is this hotel here that they said we do not have Wi-Fi. So they put this plaque: we do not have Wi-Fi. Talk to each other, pretend it is 1995. Imagine you go out with a family or friends to eat, and everyone sits at their table with their device. No one is talking to the other. So this hotel decided no Wi-Fi's. Let everyone be concerned with the person sitting next to them. And then we have sleep disruption. Sleep disruption. So sleep hormones are hindered by blue light. Every screen that we see, artificial light, has what we call blue light. Now, while social media use may impact sleep regardless of the time of the day, it may be particularly important before bedtime for three reasons. Social media use may delay bedtime and displace time available for sleep, and mental activation can hinder ease of falling asleep. And the light from the screen-based devices can delay the onset of sleep. So these screens, they have what is called blue light. And blue light hinders the artificial cycle of sleep because it hinders the production of the sleep hormone called melatonin. So the BrainFacts organization.org says how blue light affects our ability to sleep. Artificial blue light emitted by smartphone screens can disrupt our circadian rhythms, throwing off our natural sleep-wake cycles. This blue light hits our eyes and suppresses the production of melatonin, a hormone that helps induce drowsiness and regulate sleep. So we have a hormone, there are several, but this is the main one, melatonin. So the blue light hinders the secretion of the hormone melatonin. The hormone melatonin is released by the body between 9 p.m. up to around 2 p.m. So those are the times we are supposed to sleep. Unfortunately, this blue light hinders the production of that hormone, sleep hormone. So the blue light penetrates all the way to the retina, the inner lining of the back of the eye. And laboratory studies have shown that too much exposure to blue light can damage light-sensitive cells in the retina. This causes changes that resemble those of macular degeneration, which can lead to permanent vision loss. So this can cause problems, and the sleeping patterns, as we have seen, and because of that, that will affect our mood and memory and focus and critical thinking later on. So it is very important to take that into consideration. Now, we will be looking at some of these solutions to some of these issues in probably the last two presentations. So some of these issues will not have a direct answer as we are going through the study. The other issue is envy. Now, social media promotes envy and covetousness. In a study involving 600 adults, roughly a third said social media made them feel negative emotions. Mainly frustration and envy was the main cause. This was triggered by comparing their lives to others, and the biggest culprit was other people's travel photos. So you'll see people post photos, especially in these platforms, to tell others where they've been and what they are doing. They always take the best photos. They take time to filter the photos to make sure they have the right angle of the photo, whether it is a selfie, to get the right angle, to filter it, to get the best photo. And so this one fosters envy and jealousy among those who look and try to compare their lives and these people's photos that are posted. Now, this I've said in the book of Psalm 73, verses 3. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. It's a subject that is spoken of in the scriptures, that there was some time when people, even ministers in God's temple, Asaph was a music leader in the sanctuary, and he was envious. You can also read Job. Job was also Job 21. He says he was envious. You can read Jeremiah 12. He says he was envious. So there's a list of some of these people who express themselves, and God says, "Be thou not envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them." That is what Solomon says in Proverbs 24:1 and 24:19. And Paul in Galatians 5:26 says, "Let us not be desirous of vain glory, provoking one another, envying one another." So we should also consider that not only are we looking and being envious of others, what are we posting, and what is it supposed to evoke in other people's emotions? Some people maybe went through a heartbreak, and then they post something to make sure the other person who left is envious. So provoking one another, that is what Paul is saying, and envying one another. So it is either you are jealous of what you are seeing through the photos, or you are the one who is making others jealous. So it works the two ways. The other issue is outsourcing happiness. Most of the times, the reason why people post these issues, negative issues, kind of in the social media, they connect one to another. So some of the reasons why people post is to seek for happiness. We are living at a time where people want to be happy, and probably families are broken, and they are living in places where they wish they can feel love, and they can get loved, and they can get happiness. And so social media is a place where they turn to. At least they can take a photo and post so that somebody else likes the photo, and that appeals to the reward center of the brain. The brain has a reward center. So any like, any comment appeals to that reward center, and it is a feel good process, a dopamine hit that is released in the brain. So 1 Thessalonians 2, verses 4, Paul writes saying, "But as we who are allowed of God to be put in trust with the gospel, even so we speak, not as pleasing men, but God, which tried our hearts." So we should not do things to please men. because we are outsourcing for happiness with policemen so that they can like pat our backs and like us, and have those emojis of love. That is exactly what outsourcing happiness means. So those photos that I put there, I said each and every photo has a meaning, and make sure you look at it very carefully and consider what it says. So that is what is called outsourcing happiness from the masses. People who you don't even know, they don't even know you. They like, and you feel good because your photo was liked. Unfortunately, anytime people post photos, they post so that somebody can like. You take a photo, you post so that somebody else can like, love, comment. You anytime you post that photo, you wait for those likes and comments. You always go back and see how many views did the picture and the comment and the video accumulate. So it has been kind of like a trap for people to outsource happiness from the masses of people who they have no idea who they are. Then we have maintaining a persona. As we said, when you get into this platform, you create a persona who you are. If you put your name there, whatever it is, a nickname or whatever, your birthday date and all that, and then you have to maintain that persona. It requires time, it requires resources, it requires a lot of effort to maintain the persona, the trimmings of photos, the careful crafting of each comment that you post. So it is difficult to create a persona. And Cheryl Tackle says human relationships are rich, and they are messy, and they are demanding. And we clean them up with technology, texting, email, posting, all of these things let us present self as we want to be. So you always have control, and we get to edit, and that means we get to delete, and that means we get to retouch the face, the voice, the flesh, the body, not too little, not too much, just right. So for you to create a persona, it requires a lot of things. Unfortunately, we create a persona of happy faces, and maybe on the ground, things are different. There are broken families and relationships, but we are trying to get some happiness from somewhere else. Most of the times, whatever is posted in the platform is not real. Unfortunately, it is not real. The persona we create in this platform is not real. Now, 75% admitted to lying about themselves on social media. So 75% of people said whatever they put on Facebook, on this media platform, lies. Some of them are lies. 43% of men fall admitted to fabricating facts on their posts. So most of these things are fake. They are put there to maintain a persona that you have already created. Then we have manipulative share baits that entices people to share and forward messages. And some of these are quite gross. You are told, please type amen before you scroll. If you need a financial breakthrough, type amen. They are manipulative share baits. They are meant to manipulate you. There's nothing divine about the name amen. It does not have an attachment to some spiritual power. But because we are manipulated by fear, you find that we forward and share and type, thinking that there's something divine that we have accomplished by doing according to what we are told. So these share baits are quite popular. But we are told in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, for God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Of a sound mind. And Peter says, when Christ was reviled, he did not revile back. He did not threaten. So when somebody tells you, do this or this will happen, that is a threat, and that is not Christianity. and it is called a manipulative sherbet. Then we have an issue called debating. Debating is also quite popular. People, even in Christian cycles, they debate in a very unchrist-like manner and arguments. Now, debate is not one of the best ways to preach. Philippians 1:15-16, Paul says, some indeed preach Christ even of envy and of strife, and some also of goodwill. The one preach Christ of contention, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my bones. So we have these debates and arguments that have, most of the time, they turn quite nasty. And we think we are making a point, and we are trying to be strong and justifying things. Unfortunately, debating is not a Christian way in which to present the gospel. And Romans 1:28 says, even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them up over to a reprobate mind. Those things which are not convenient, being filled with unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, malicious, full of envy, murder, debate. So debate is in the list of all the other wrongs and sins that Paul lists to the Romans. So debate is not a way in which the message of the gospel of Christ is to be preached. Now, if you've done a study of the church, you will realize that debating, there are people who are debaters in the church. There was somebody called Moses Hall, was quite a strong debater in church, and he was warned about his debating character. He was told, what you're doing is not right. So he was debating. Most of the time, the debate was against the spiritualism and the spiritualists of his time. Unfortunately, what happened is that he left the church and he crossed over to spiritualism, and he established an organization of spiritualism. So most of these debaters, they either leave the church, even in our country today. There are people who have been debating, especially these Muslim Christian debates, who have left the church, and now they have their own churches. So debating does a lot of harm and damage. Now, evangelism, page 163, says the spirit of debate or controversy is a device of Satan to stir up combativeness, and that's eclipse the truth as it is in Jesus. And with those who have educated themselves as debaters, there is a great danger that they will not handle the word of God with fairness. That is Testimony for the Church, volume 5, page 708. Gospel Workers 182 says young preachers should avoid discussions. Now, that does not mean we should avoid discussion. He's speaking about debate. That is the context. And for they do not increase spirituality or humbleness of mind, this debate and arguments. In some cases, it may be necessary to meet a proud boaster against the truth of God in open debate. But generally, this discussion, either oral or written, media is most of the time written, result in more harm than good. So debating is not a way in which to present the gospel. Just remember, Christ did not call us to win arguments or debates, but to win souls for him. And we are asked always to be ready to give an answer to every man that asks us a reason for the hope that is in us with meekness and fear. That is 1 Peter 3:15. And then we also have media stimulation, because media kind of stimulates the brain. It acts like a drug. That is what we saw yesterday. Now, the desire for excitement and pleasing entertainment is a temptation and a snare to the people, to God's people, especially to the young. Satan is constantly preparing inducement to attract minds from the solemn work of preparation for the saints just in future. Through the agency of worldlings, he keeps us continual excitement. It keeps up a continual excitement to induce the unwary to join the worldly pleasures. And these are shows, lectures, and an endless variety of entertainment that are calculated to lead to a love of the world. And through this union with the world faith is weakened. So that is Messages to Young People, 373, paragraph 1. So we are told that there are excitements, and the devil is putting on devices and strategies to make sure he is capturing people as much as possible, especially the young people. And so because of that stimulation, our attention span has shortened. This is the Time magazine. And the average attention span for notorious ill-focused goldfish is 9 seconds. But according to the new study from Microsoft Corporation, people now generally lose concentration after 8 seconds. Now, that is surprising. You expect to preach a 1 hour sermon to someone, and he loses attention at 8 seconds. Unfortunately. So attention deficit is being created. It is called attention disorder hyperreactivity disorder. And it is called ADHD in acronym. And there are symptoms of this ADHD, being easily distracted, trouble in following direction of finishing tasks, having poor listening skills, having trouble paying attention, making careless mistakes, forgetting things easily. So you can look at all this long list and see which of these characteristics are found in you or in your kids or the people that you know. It is because they probably have ADHD. The attention is, they have a deficit of attention. Now, Nicholas Kardaras, who wrote the book Glow Kids, how screen addiction is hijacking our kids, says kids raised with screen were almost universally what I call uninterested, uninteresting, bored and boring. They lack a natural curiosity and a sense of wonder and imagination that non-screen kids seem to have. Kids are naturally supposed to be curious. They ask questions, they think, and they ask even questions that an adult cannot answer. But unfortunately today, a kid has to, the only thing they think about is a screen. They want a phone to play with. They cannot think. We are raising dunderhead children. They can't think, they can't imagine anything. Only thing they can do is play games or just do something with some screen. Now, this is Victory L. Dunkley, who wrote a book, Reset Your Children's Brain. He says, view electronics as a stimulant. In essence, not unlike caffeine and these other medicine, in these other drugs, cocaine. Electronic device use puts the body into a state of high arousal and hyperfocus, followed by a crash. So this overstimulation of the nervous system is capable of causing a variety of chemical, hormonal, and sleep disturbances in the same way other stimulants can. So these devices and media, especially social media, is a stimulant, acts as such. Now we can't go through some of these, but we are told those who love society frequently indulge this trait until they become overruling passion. To dress, to visit places of amusement, to laugh, to chat upon subjects altogether lighter than vanity. This is the object of their life. They cannot endure to read the Bible and contemplate heavenly things. They are miserable unless there is something to excite. Messages to young people, page 430. So that is the problem. We have devices that are stimulating our brain, overstimulating our brain. When it comes to reading the Bible, which requires you to think, because this entertainment and excitements don't require you to think. You don't need to think when you're watching a meme. You don't need. But when you're studying a Bible, you need to engage your brain. So the Bible becomes boring because you're being overstimulated by this media. So it seems like the devil is behind the wires holding those cables. And the literature, books generally, and the Bible have been made into caskets, and the gadgets, whether it is the playing pads, the iPhone, the smartphones, and the earphones, they are barring the books, especially the Bible. And the brain has already determined who is the winner. It is the devices, the smartphone, and not the book, the Bible. Because the Bible and the books require you to think. The devices don't require you to think at all most of the time. Now listen to this.
The way the technologist Jaron Lanier puts it is that these companies offer you shiny treats in exchange for minutes of your attention and bytes of your personal data, which can then be packaged up and sold.
What happened is that the attention economy and this race for attention got more and more competitive. And the more competitive it got to get people's attention on, say, a news website, the more they need to add these design principles, these more manipulative design tactics, as ways of holding on to your attention.
You don't realize it, but you are being programmed.
Social media tools are designed to be addictive. The actual desired use case of these tools is that you fragment your attention as much as possible throughout your waking hours. That's how these tools are designed to use. Well, we have a growing amount of research which tells us that if you spend large portions of your day in a state of fragmented attention, so large portions of your day where you're constantly breaking up your attention, take a quick glance, do a just check, and just quickly look at Instagram, that this can permanently reduce your capacity for concentration. I am especially worried about this when we look at the younger generation coming up, which is the most saturated in this technology.
Yeah, so from that video, there's a lot that has been said. There is something that is happening. This is business. Social media is business. Now the question is, what are they selling? The answer is they are selling you. Your information that you give, the personal information that you give, and the time. That is what is packaged and is sold to the marketers and advertisers. So you are the product of the social media. You should know that. And so because of the stimulation, now it brings addiction. We saw that. We saw this yesterday. Almost half of the British teens feel addicted to social media, study says. And some of these kids says it is hijacking my brain. And more than 75% of teens check their phones hourly, and half say they feel like they're addicted to their devices. So it is a stimulant. It works like cocaine, it works like heroin, it works like any kind of stimulant. And over 200 peer-reviewed studies point to screen time correlating to increased ADHD, screen addiction, increased aggression, depression, anxiety, even psychosis. That is what Dr. Nicholas Kadara, the writer of Glow Kids, says. And so, when you are addicted, you become a slave. And the book of Romans 6:16, Paul says, "Know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants ye are to whom ye obey, whether of sin unto death or obedience unto righteousness." So when you yield to something, when something controls you, yesterday we started by saying, when you have a phone and it rings, is it a must for you to pick the call? When a message comes through, is it a must for you to see who sent the message and what the message is? But most of the times, we are programmed to do exactly what the smartphone wants us to do. That's why it is called the smartphone. It's more smarter than you, and it is controlling you. You must pick the phone when it rings. You must check when a message comes in. So who is controlling who? And so we have this addiction effect. And so we become slaves. Now look at those photos very carefully and think in your brain as you look at the photos, who is controlling who? That is the question. And especially for young people, they cannot be in a room that does not have a socket where they can plug in their devices. And it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem. So we are kind of become slaves to these devices. And that is why it is called a cell phone, because you are closed in these devices. It's as if all your life is in this device. So it is your cell, a cell phone. So how do you know you are addicted? How do you know you are addicted? Yesterday, we looked at some of a few characteristics of screen addiction. Now, these are 7 question survey to diagnose an addiction by the APA, American Psychiatric Association. Number 1, do you seek out larger quantities of media use in question than you used to in order to get the same effect? You used to watch 2 memes, you used to watch 3, 4 WhatsApp status, now you watch 10. Do you ever feel withdrawal symptoms? Can you put your phone aside for 1 day, 2 days without ever looking at it? Number 3, do you ever use more of it than you intended? You wanted to check something for 5 minutes, and 30 minutes later, you are still on the device. Ask yourself that. Have you ever tried to reduce usage and found that you cannot, that you're using it at the same level again? So you decided, I'm so tired of this, let me just use this media for 10 minutes. And 1 hour later, you are still there. And do you ever spend a great deal of time thinking about it or using it? Has it ever caused you to stop participating in worthwhile activities that you used to enjoy? Yeah, you used to go Vespers. Now you spend time watching Churchill or movies or this media. You find yourself that there are things that are more important that you are to do, but they have passed because you were busy on media. And the 7th one is, have you ever continued to use it even in the face of adverse social or health consequences? Sometimes I see people are affected. For example, you have an eye ache. Your eyes are aching because of this media. You're using a laptop, you have this eye ache, but you continue using it even irrespective of the pain that you are going through. So if you answer yes to 3 of those questions, just know you are addicted. Yeah, you got me right. So if you answer yes to any of the 3 questions there, no, you are addicted. Peter says in his second epistle, chapter 2, verses 19, while they promise them liberty, they themselves are servants of corruption. For whom a man is overcome of the same is brought into bondage. We were told these devices are bringing democracy. We can get information that we want. Unfortunately, they are making us slaves. So we were promised liberty and democracy and all this, but unfortunately, they are making us more of slaves than being free to choose and to use them. And then we have time. So there is a lot of time that is used, wasted when you come to media. Now, Facebook, Ramsey Brown says, you spend half your time on Facebook just scrolling to find one good piece worth looking at. You know, you get into Facebook and Facebook tells you, these are people you may know. So you scroll through the long list of people you may know to get one page that is familiar, one name that is familiar. So half the time you spend on this platform is to try to get the right thing to spend your time on, unfortunately. So let us imagine that you are 18 years old. This is a kind of a case study, and your life expectancy, that is, you live up to 90. Imagine that. Now we have these dots here. These dots represent 1 year. So there are 336 of them. 36 is 3 years. So one row from here to here is 3 years. That is 36 months. And you are now 18 years, and you expect to live, assumingly, up to 90 years. So the first 288 months you spend sleeping. And then 126 months you spend working and school. Remember, you are an 18-year-old. So 288 months of the whole period that is remaining from 18 to 90 years is spent on sleeping. And then 126 is spent on school and work. And then 36 months, one whole row is spent on cooking and eating, and then other activities if you can drive and all that. And then 27 months are spent on bathroom and hygiene. So you are left with 334 months as free time. So that is the free time that you are left with. So let me ask you a question. Put yourself in this context. In this free time, what do you think you can do? You can spend this free time doing? What comes into your mind on spending of this free time? Is social media one of them? You know, you can spend venturing into into entrepreneurship and businesses and establishing relationships and friends, making friends. There are things you can do, businesses and all that. But I don't think social media comes into your mind, scrolling through media. It doesn't, does it? Unfortunately, 312 of those 334 months are spent on screen time. Just imagine that. 312 of those 334 months are spent on screen. Remember when we were looking at platforms and age bracket and the reason for each age bracket to spend, the reason they spend this their time on social media platform. The age bracket between 16 to 34 spend number 2 of their reason was free time. So that is what they will use on free time. 3/4, this is the Guardian, 3/4 of UK children spend less time outdoors than prison inmates. So imagine prisoners spend more time outside than 3/4 of the children in the United Kingdom. So that is quite astounding, but that is what is happening. Now I want you to calculate your cost. How much? We are told time is money. How much can 1 hour of your time cost? If you are conversant with online remote working, when you get into one of these platforms of online remote working, the standard payment for working is $20 per hour. So $20 is what you of course there are different jobs with different payment rates, but generally when you're creating a profile in these online remote working platforms, the standard is $20 per hour. So imagine 1 hour costs $20. You use 2 hours in TikTok. So 1 hour, 2 hours in TikTok, 2 hours a day, and then 30 days for 30 days. So 20 times $20 times 2 times 30. So monthly, you are spending $1,200. Now you change that into Kenyan shillings, about 180,000 Kenyan shillings per month. That is what somebody who is working online 2 hours a day for 30 days will be paid at the end of a month. Imagine that is the cost of social media. If somebody was to pay you 2 hours, let me ask you a question. If social media platform decide they are going to charge a fee for any person using them, how much will you spend to pay this social media? Let's say monthly. Will you spend 1,000 shillings or 5,000 or 20,000? Unfortunately, when you make that calculation that you've just made, you will spend 180,000 if you use 2 hours a day. That is the real cost of social media. So it is eating up our time. And Ephesians 5:16 says, redeeming time, because the days are evil. We are living, the world is supposed to have ended. We are living on probational time or borrowed time, but we are living as if we are on holiday. So the question is, look at that picture. Who is using who? Who is using who? Look at this man telling the internet, I'm using you because you're free. But the internet says, no, I am the one using you because you're free. So who is using who? It's something that you're supposed to ask yourself. Who is using who? Now, I want us to wrap it up, but it seems like we have little to go through. So let me go through some of these to quickly wrap it up. So we have the exploitation of human vulnerability. Every human has a weakness of being kind of valued and rewarded, and the brain always release the feel-good hormone dopamine to make that reward. And the social media platform, they know that. You can see here the Guardian, Facebook told advertisers it can identify teens feeling insecure and worthless. So because of whatever we offer as data to these platforms, they can use that and package it, sell it to advertisers. So they tell you this is how these people behave. You can advertise to them in whatever way it seems good to you. So that's why the former Facebook executive said, you don't realize it, but you're being programmed. So generally, your behaviors, you don't realize it, but you're being programmed. He said that is Kamath. It is an intention, but but now you got to decide how much you are going to give up, how much your intellectual independence. So we are being programmed by this media. They exactly know what we think. That's why when you open Facebook, the first thing on that place you write your text is what is on your mind. And so they do things that are psychological. Like when Facebook was made, they had a blue badge for notification, but they changed it to red and no one used it. So when they changed it to red, everyone used it because red is a color of attention. So such things as those are very crucial when it comes to social media. Now, this is the last part, social validation feedback loops. And it is what keeps us hooked to social media. I want you to listen to this video.
Entrepreneur Sean Parker says he's not sure how much Facebook is benefiting society. Parker was the founding president of Facebook when the company started over a decade ago. He recently made some very jarring comments about social media exploiting the vulnerabilities in human psychology during a conversation with Axios. Here's what he had to say.
You know, if the thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them to really understand it, that thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's going to get you, more likes and comments. I mean, it's a social validation feedback loop that it's like it's exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with, because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. And I think that the inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's the Kevin Systrom at Instagram, it's all of these people, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
All right, let me just close my Facebook page right now. He's making me feel bad. Parker also said that social media, quote, probably interferes with productivity in weird ways.
Now, I will not finish that, but this is the co-founder of Facebook. He says they made this, they knew something will go wrong, but they went on anyway because they were looking at a vulnerability, a weakness in human psychology, that as humans we like to be valued. We like to have somebody estimate our value and our worth. So we always want to be loved and want to be liked and want. So anytime you post something, you get this like and you get that. The weapons of social manipulation. This is the most important one. Now, the arsenal of social feedback weapons deployed by digital platforms include likes, follows, comments, tags, friend link, number of friends, followers, Instagram and Facebook stories, Snapchat, streaks, collapse, number of views, shares, replies, people you may know, friend request, invites, groups, events, emojis, badges, pokes, hugs, winks, high fives. The list is endless. So all these things are meant to keep us hooked. You post a photo and somebody likes, you will definitely go back and see who liked it. So that is very important when you are considering these platforms. So that is the main thing that keeps us hooked. So there is that social validation that you post something, somebody liked it, so you feel that you have this self-worth, that you are okay, and that determines your decision. You keep using the platform, you're influenced and exposed to digital marketing. So that validation of likes and comments, and today you have 3 likes, tomorrow you will want 5 likes, and you have 30 subscribers today, you reach 50,000, and you will tell subscribe, we want to reach 100,000 subscribers. So you are always looking for more and going back to this social media platform. So as we said, curiosity, click to find out. Friend tagged you and 5 others in a photo. You will have to click to find out who and what photo you posted, and you've been your post has been viewed by 10 people. So you will have to go there. You have 7 new friend requests. Your picture has received 20 likes. So these notifications are always calling you back to these social media platforms, because they are using as much of your time and as much of your attention as possible. And so as we are looking for this acceptance and approval, and we find our homes and people that are around us, our family, there are broken relationships. We can't get that validation that we are feeling, that we are looking good. So you take a photo, you put on social media so that somebody can look, and you feel you are quantified. You feel that you are valued because of this vulnerability. We always want somebody to value us. And so today you have this amount of likes and comments. Tomorrow you will want more. So you will be kept into those platforms. And when you have something, a comment that you posted, a picture, nobody liked it, you feel bad. You always go back and like, who has viewed? I want us to be honest when we are looking at these issues. Yeah, you post something, a photo, nobody likes it, you will feel bad, because most of the time you post because you want somebody else to give you validation. It is called the social feedback validation loops. And so these likes and comments, and they have become like a trap. So we are trapped. As we saw, let us close by this. As we saw, when you get into Facebook, the first thing you are asked in that, where you write your text, what is in your mind? So the platform is asking you to reveal what is in your mind, where you are, what you're doing. Generally, identify yourself. Unfortunately, as you give this feedback to this, you give your details and information to these social media platforms. The founder, Mark Zuckerberg, was asked kind of a similar question. But listen to what he said. Listen, this is a quite 3-4 minute video. There's at the beginning of the video, Mark Zuckerberg is asked a question. He denies, he rejects to give an answer. And then at the finish of the video, he's also asked another question, but he denies to answer. But when you are asked, you give your information in his own platform.
Cruel social media remarks. Facebook comments have been pouring in after 4 people died while hiking.
You're dealing with an addicted generation.
This is a big time bomb ticking.
These kids who commit suicide, you go look at their Instagrams, you would have no clue.
Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No. People who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook. It'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse.
To be human means that you are persuadable in every single moment. It doesn't matter what language you speak, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It's not about what someone knows, it's about how your mind actually works.
We now know that many of the major social media companies hire individuals called attention engineers who borrow principles from Las Vegas casino gambling, among other places, to try to make these products as addictive as possible.
We are all vulnerable to social approval. We really care what other people think of us. When you upload a new photo of yourself on Facebook, that's a moment where our mind is very vulnerable to knowing what other people think of my new profile photo. And so when we get new likes on our profile photo, Facebook, knowing this, could actually message me and say, oh, you have new likes on your profile photo. It knows that we'll be vulnerable to that moment because we all really care about when we're tagged in a photo or when we have a new profile photo. I mean, I think we can all feel it. And it's as if we've been infected. It's if they've drilled a hole in the back of our head and now they've injected the virus and now we walk around searching for feedback using social media.
We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress. They don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to social media. They're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook. That's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, you're just not that important to me, right? So you have an addicted generation that doesn't have the skill set to ask for help. Combined with the fact that they're so good at Facebook and Instagram, they're good at putting filters on everything. So they're good at showing you how smart and strong they are. These kids who commit suicide, you go look at their Instagrams, you would have no clue that they were depressed.
People look like they have a much better life than they really do. People are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking. People basically seem they're way better looking than they basically really are, and they're way happier seeming than they really are. So if you look at everyone on Instagram, you might think, they're all these happy, beautiful people, and I'm not that good looking and I'm not happy, so I must suck. Some of the happiest seeming people, actually some of the saddest people in reality.
Social media isn't real, but you don't ever see real life. The 99% of our lives, the behind the scenes, the unglamorous, unfiltered, day-to-day, bland normality. And you end up comparing your behind the scenes to other people's fake highlight reel and using others as a mirror or benchmark for how you should look, how successful you should be, or how you should live. You'll become your happiest self when you stop putting pressure on yourself to be more like someone else.
And they know that this causes depression. They're injecting things into your head that you didn't ask for. Our lives are becoming more transparent, just inevitably. It's just pulling us.
It'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
No.
Yeah, I want you to think about that. The founder of Facebook will not say anything about his life, but you will put your life on these social media platforms. Think about that. We'll be looking at these founders and what their lives look like later on. Friends, we are looking for happiness. We are looking for satisfaction. We are looking for fulfillment. We are looking to be valued. Friends, we can find that in Christ. And Christ said in the book of John 17:13 that whatever he spoke, his word was to make us, to give us joy. And he bought us with a price. So that price was quite an expensive price. It was his own blood. You can read that in the book of Acts 20:28 and 1 Corinthians 6:20. We are bought with a price, and the price was the blood of God. So that is how much God values us. There is happiness, there is joy, there is satisfaction. God created us and he can satisfy. It's called the desire of all ages. He can satisfy all that we are looking for, the happiness, the peace, the love, the value and validation that we want, we can find in him. And that is why, like the woman at the well, we are seeking for things that could not satisfy. But God calls us to draw from the well that shall never run dry. So let us call upon him to come and quench our thirsting souls and feed us with the bread of heaven until we want no more. I will ask that we pray even as we come to a conclusion. Father Lord, you have led us through even this evening study. We have felt your presence. You've led us by your Spirit. We have much to learn. We pray that you may speak unto our hearts, that we may search our own hearts with introspection, to see, Lord, what you have to tell us through these studies. Continue speaking unto us, and above all, guide us to reflect upon our lives and make decisions that will glorify thee. Let your spirit be with us. Let your blessing be upon us, is our prayer in Jesus' name. Thank you all for joining us. I will ask that we join early because the studies are now going to be more enormous. So I pray that we join early so that we finish early. Good night.
Fill my cup, Lord, I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsty